I never imagined I'd be the type of person to carry a secret this heavy. From the outside, my life looked flawless. A steady marriage, a warm home, the sort of picture-perfect life people scroll past online and assume is ideal. But perfect images have hidden corners. It began with late nights at the office. I'd tell my husband, James, that I was buried under extra projects and deadlines I couldn't ignore. The truth? I simply didn't want to be home. The tension between us had been building for months, silent, but heavy, like a storm hovering in the distance that refuses to break. Then there was Ryan. Nothing like James. Louder, unpredictable, the kind of person who made you feel like rules were optional. I met him through a mutual friend at a neighborhood cookout. From our first conversation, it was as if we'd known each other for years. We started with casual texts, then phone calls, then in-person meetings. One Friday night, James messaged that he'd be working late. I thought I had hours before he returned. Ryan stopped by, supposedly to drop something off, but the way he leaned against the garage wall made it clear this wasn't about delivering a package. We were laughing, too loud, too careless. When my voice slipped, saying his name in a way that carried far more meaning than I'd intended, it echoed in the garage. Ryan froze. And then I heard it, a knock. Not on the front door. Not the side entrance. On the thin, rattling garage door, separating us from the driveway. My chest tightened. Through the small, grimy window I saw James. His eyes locked on me like he could see through my skin. I stumbled backward, my words catching in my throat. Ryan straightened, his smile vanishing, replaced by a wide-eyed look that said everything. We've been caught. James didn't speak. He knocked again, slower this time. The kind of knock you feel in your bones. My hands shook as I opened the side door. James! He lifted his hand, cutting me off. Save it, he said, his voice low and controlled, which somehow felt worse than shouting. Behind me, Ryan mumbled about leaving, but James didn't look at him. His gaze stayed locked on mine, sharp and unblinking. In that instant, I understood. This wasn't only about what he'd seen just now. It was about everything I'd broken long before tonight. James stepped inside the garage without asking. Each step was slow, deliberate, his shoes scraping the concrete. Ryan muttered something about having to go and slipped past him, but not before James turned his head just enough to give him a look, a silent warning sharp enough to make Ryan hurry to his car. When the door slammed shut behind him, the silence thickened. James didn't look at me right away. Instead, he picked up a wrench from the workbench, turning it in his hands like it was suddenly fascinating. Finally, he asked, "How long?" His voice was steady, but I heard the crack underneath. I opened my mouth, but the truth felt too heavy. "It's not what you think." He let out a humorless laugh, setting the wrench down with a dull thud. "Don't insult me, Claire. You were calling his name. I think I can figure it out." I wanted to say something that could rewind everything. Erase the garage, erase Ryan. But nothing came. James's eyes met mine. Was it worth it? I flinched. I don't know. Wrong answer. His head shook slightly, his lips pressed tight like he was holding back everything he wanted to say. "You know," he said quietly, "I used to believe we could survive anything. Even the nights you barely looked at me. Even when you checked your phone more than you looked at me. I told myself you were just tired, stressed. I didn't want to believe you'd give yourself to someone else." Guilt stung, tangled with defensiveness. "You haven't exactly been perfect either," I murmured. His jaw tightened. "Maybe not. But I didn't invite someone else into our marriage like this." The word this sat between us, sharp and cold. I stepped forward, reaching for his hand, but he pulled away. "Don't," he said, his voice breaking just enough to betray the pain he was holding in. We stood in the dim garage, both knowing the damage had started long before tonight, maybe years ago. Finally, James turned toward the door. "I need space," he said. "I'll come back for my things." Panic flared in my chest. "James, please." But he didn't stop. The door closed behind him, leaving me in the cold, the echo of his knock still pounding in my head. That night, I sat on the couch, staring at a blank TV screen. The house felt different without him. Heavier, emptier, yet suffocating all the same. Every sound, every shadow reminded me he wasn't there. I thought he'd cool off and return. That's what he always did after a fight. Disappear for a few hours, then come back with tired eyes and a half-hearted, "Let's talk." But morning came and he didn't. Instead, I got a text, "Don't call me. I'll send someone for my stuff." My hands shook. My throat tightened. This wasn't a fight. This was final. Still, I called him, drove to his brother's place. Nothing. Days passed, each one a sentence I'd written for myself. Then came the message I didn't expect from my sister-in-law. "I heard about the garage. But you should know, James already knew. Weeks ago." The words blurred on my screen. He already knew? I called her immediately. She sounded hesitant, almost guilty. "He saw your phone a few weeks back. Messages from Ryan. He didn't say anything, he was hoping you'd stop on your own." A strange mix of shame and a twisted relief washed over me. James had been carrying that knowledge in silence. But she wasn't done. "He's been staying at your mom's." I froze. My mom's? She hadn't said a word to me. That night, I drove over. Mom opened the door like nothing was wrong, but I saw the flicker of tension in her eyes. "He's in the kitchen," she said softly. James looked exhausted, as if the fight had been drained out of him. "I'm not here to fight," I said. I need you to know I'm sorry. Not just for the garage. For everything. For making you feel like you weren't enough, when you were the only one who really saw me." He studied me for a long moment. "You want the truth? I loved you so much I ignored every sign you were slipping away. And by the time I stopped pretending, it was already over." Tears burned in my eyes. But he didn't reach for me. Instead, he said, "I'm filing next week." This isn't revenge. It's self-respect. The words hit harder than I expected. I didn't argue because for once I understood. And maybe that was the real punishment. Not losing him that night in the garage, but realizing I had already lost him in 100 small moments I never noticed.